the vegetables to get to the chocolate and the crisps. So, I mean, if you just stop and pick up the blueberries instead of picking up the chocolate bar, and then you exercise for an extra 10 minutes more, you're going to be a little bit healthier.
But also, for me, it's been about education. And I was really uneducated about what was good food, what was bad food, and what I needed to do to eat healthily. Because I'd think, well, it has to be salad, doesn't it? And of course, no one wants to eat salad all the time, particularly when it's cold and grey. You know, you want something that's nurturing. And so for me, cooking from scratch, and I know it sounds obvious, but it's actually, I'm saving money. I'm learning a lot about what goes, you know, how you actually physically cook.
How do you think about food differently to how you did think about food maybe a year ago? Can you take us through that mental journey as well? And do you still love food in the way that you used to before?
That's actually a really good question. I do still love food, but I'd say I'm not obsessed with it. And I used to have this strange mindset where I'd think, oh, well, I've eaten my main course, now I have to have my pudding. And literally, I would finish something savoury and reach for something sweet. You know, a child of the 60s and 70s, I used to finish everything on my plate and take really big portions. You know, portions that were way outside of what I needed to function. Although towards the end, actually, because I was so big, I didn't eat that much food. Just, you know, my body was reliant on it. I was always hungry, never satisfied. It was like filling this big empty barrel, just constantly shoveling grub into it. And I don't now look at food as a toxic thing. It doesn't control me, I control it. And I still get great enjoyment, huge pleasure from eating food. Tonight I have probably eaten more than I ordinarily would. But there is nothing that I would say, well, I can't have that, or I'm not allowed that. That's just a self-imposed boundary that doesn't work for me. But I've eaten less than I would ordinarily, and I stop when I'm full. And that's such a revelation to me, rather than thinking I need to eat all of it.
I just got great enjoyment out of that spicy aubergine then. It was delicious. It just burst full of flavour in my mouth.
Well, Martin, the reason that we're here and the reason that we're doing this is because we love food. What does it mean to you? Does it bring you joy? Tell us a bit more about what food means to you.
Well, personally, yeah, it brings me immense joy. You don't put something in your mouth you're not going to enjoy, do you? You put something in there that you love. What about you, Steph? Do you put anything in yours that you don't enjoy?
No, I love food, and it brings me so much joy having people come together and eating food. And you were saying this as well, Amanda.
Totally. I think food is the social glue, isn't it? And it's like, so when I cook, when the family all come over, and I'm not the world's best cook, not by any stretch, but it's not that. It's about having time together and that joy of just being together and talking while something's slowly simmering in the oven. But I think it's a really evocative thing. There are so many foods that I will, even a certain biscuit, that I will smell it and I'm in my nan's kitchen, or a piece of shortbread and I'm sitting with my aunt, or, you know, all those things. Food is so evocative. With childhood particularly, I find it's really tied up.
I was eating some chocolate crunch just the other day, and it immediately took me back to my primary school days when we had pink custard over it. Ooh. And it was just so reminiscent.
Is there anything that you hated as a child that you now love as an adult?
I never liked olives as a nipper, and I still don't like celery.
Oh, celery.
I can't eat raw celery. I could pick it out of anything. I just can't tolerate it. Can you?
No, I find it too stringy and I don't get it. And apparently I remember reading back in the day that it took more calories to eat it than you were consuming, so it was all the rage, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, my mum uses a lot of celery in stews and things, but I just, not for me, thanks.
Stew, though, that is the ultimate comfort food, isn't it?
Oh, a lovely stew, yeah, with dumplings.
So, Amanda and Martin, what are your foods that give you a big hug? What are the things that really comfort you, and what would you reach for on a day when you need a emotional pick-me-up?
Well, I'm very boring. It's a tin of tomato soup for me, not even homemade. I mean, just open the tin, shove it in, a bit of toast, and I'm done. That if I'm feeling poorly, if I'm feeling down or lonely or cold, tin of soup every time. I love it.
Ooh, well, I'd probably go for slow-cooked meat, 15 or 16 hours in the slow cooker with a little bit of gravy or barbecue sauce, and when you get there it's all unctuous, and the minute you walk through the door you can smell it. That's my huggy food. And on the subject of hugging, you've got a podcast which is basically a hug, isn't it?
It is, thank you, it is. It's a lovely hug, and I'm doing a podcast with my mate Penny, and it's called Chit Chat and All That. I love the title. I love the title. Penny came up with that. I have to give her credit. Chit chat and all that. And yeah, it's dropping soon, as the kids say. But yeah, we are the Chit Chatters, I think it is on Instagram. And we're just really excited. It's basically just pulling up a chair at our kitchen table and hearing us waffle about all the things we talk about anyway. You know, food, books, gardening, dogs, all that stuff. We're not slick. It's definitely not a slick production. It's going to be us rambling over a cuppa.
But it is comforting, though.
Yeah, definitely. I hope so, Mark, yeah.
And it is good to talk.
It is, darling, and I think, you know, I was saying to you guys earlier that I've had great periods of loneliness in my life, and it always, I don't know, there's something quite shameful about admitting that you've been lonely, because I always think that people who are super successful or super popular, maybe they're not lonely, and what am I missing? But I do still get lonely, and there's something quite cosy about knowing you can just listen to a podcast or a piece of music or whatever it might be and feel less alone. I think it's important.
Well, next time you're feeling that, give us a call and we'll come over with a vegetarian biryani.
Oh, I tell you what, if it tastes half as good as this one, then you are on.
Well, we can't promise it, but we'll get practicing, won't we, Martin?